And we welcome you into lcpioneers.com live, presented by PioStream, as we keep you connected with student athletes, coaches, alumni, and different members from throughout the Lewis and Clark College community twice a week now, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and now lcpioneers.com. We've got them all covered, as we appreciate taking time to spend a few moments with us a couple of times a week. Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Goff. I am the play-by-play voice and director of athletic communications for Lewis and Clark. We're the Pioneers based out of Portland, Oregon, and members of NCAA Division III, the largest division of the NCAA, with over 430 institutions competing nationwide. And Lewis and Clark offering 19 intercollegiate athletics programs in the Northwest Conference, a 9-school conference that spans all of the state of Washington and Northwest Oregon. And Lewis and Clark in a unique position as the only school that's located in a city of over 500,000 or more. Now, we're going to talk to Jessica Cerne today, a dual sport athlete for Lewis and Clark women's track and field and women's basketball. Basketball about to get underway, track and field obviously coming up this spring. They did have a spring track and field season. We'll talk about the heptathlon with Jessica. We'll talk about internships and have an opportunity to get some insight on what it's like to be a student athlete at Lewis and Clark. Invite you to get in touch with the program. Of course, you can do so in our Facebook Live and all of the other platforms' comments. Just put a comment if you have a question for Jessica. You're always welcome to send that our way. Also, you can email us sports@lclark.edu, an opportunity to suggest future guests of the show as well. I'll invite you to take a look at our website. That's lcpioneers.com. It is a great place to find the latest information about Lewis and Clark athletics, including this week's schedule. You can go there and find out where the Pios are playing. We have 2 double headers at home this weekend. It's exciting. Starting tomorrow night, Lewis and Clark volleyball at home Friday and Saturday night. They'll take on Linfield. It is Faculty and Staff Appreciation Day, so a chance for you to wear your orange and come out and support Lewis and Clark volleyball. And then on Saturday, Dig Pink Night as the Pioneers take on Willamette. And then women's soccer on Saturday and Sunday. Both of those are starting at noon. There's going to be a tailgate party by Campus Activities Board, I believe, on Saturday prior to the noon start for Lewis and Clark women's soccer. So check it out at lcpioneers.com. You can also go to our website and click on the newsletter, or just simply type in lcpioneers.com/newsletter to get weekly Pioneers athletics news into your inbox. Go to lcpioneers.com/newsletter. Check it out right now. 3 student athletes named Conference Student Athlete of the Week last week. You can also see our interview with Eric Norman, a junior for Lewis and Clark men's swimming. We had that interview for you on Tuesday. All right, let's bring in our guest for today, a senior for both Lewis and Clark track and field and women's basketball. Excited to welcome in Jessica Cerne to the program. Jessica, it's great to have a chance to catch up with you. I love talking about dual sport athletes and all the work that you have to put into to be competitive in both of those sports, which you certainly are. But the fun part about having our student athletes is to get the origin story. So let's start with that. What is it about the opportunity to compete at Lewis and Clark that brought you to Portland?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I fell in love with the city as soon as I came to visit Lewis and Clark. I love the location. You know, it feels like we're in the middle of the woods on campus. And then just 10 minutes down the road, you're in downtown Portland with endless shops and cities. So that definitely attracted me. And then, of course, getting connected with the Lewis and Clark basketball team just made it even better. The academics at Lewis and Clark are great, so I knew if I went there, it was a safe bet. And yeah, I chose Lewis and Clark mainly because I fell in love with Portland, and I knew that I could see myself living there for 4 years.
And I'm curious, I mean, we had Eric Norman, for example, on Tuesday, came out from Ohio, right? So you're not from that far away. You're from the Pacific Northwest. What was this decision-making process about having the opportunity to stay kind of close to home, but come to Portland, obviously, and have this experience?
Yeah, I will say it's the perfect distance from home. I'm about a 3-hour drive from my hometown up in Washington. And it's great. You know, my family can come visit whenever they want. They can come watch all the games and sporting events, which is awesome. And I can go home on the weekends if I have time. So, yeah.
I want to talk about dual sport athletes, right? Because I say it's one of my favorite conversations to have on this show. Let's talk about what the thought process was, right? What's it take to decide to do 2 sports in college? What was the thought process for that?
Yeah, I guess my thought process, well, in high school, I, did 3 sports. And so I couldn't really see myself just doing one sport and having the season end and, having a couple months of school with no activities going on. I did track and basketball both in high school. I love them both equally, and I knew I wanted to continue that. And at Lewis and Clark, it's awesome. You can just approach the coaches and tell them, hey, I'll give it my all. Let me come out there. And that's what I did. And the track team welcomed me with open arms. And yeah, it was the best decision I've ever made. I love being a dual sport athlete. It keeps me busy. It keeps me out of trouble. And yeah.
I like to hear the idea of keeping busy, because when you talk to Lewis and Clark student athletes, keeping busy doesn't tend to be a problem. And so, of course, you have basically 3 seasons. You practice a little bit in the fall for Lewis and Clark basketball, or for track and field, excuse me. And then you have basketball, which right now is right on the horizon, correct? You're starting practice pretty soon?
Yep, October 15th.
So excited to see what the season's going to be like. And of course, you have a new head coach in Ann Doris. Describe what it's like to get to know your new head coach.
It's been awesome these last couple months. She's just been super intentional about meeting with the team and meeting with us individually to get to know us, and just create that sound foundation of a good relationship. Yeah, she's done an awesome job of that. We're really excited to see what she brings on the court. But so far off the court, been awesome getting to know her.
It's interesting too, because you're part of a very large piece of this Lewis and Clark women's basketball puzzle. This class that's been together, obviously, with a high number of student athletes who contribute to this team. So, give us insight. What's it like to have such a high number on a basketball team from the beginning? How does that help you build relationships with each other and really make solid friendships?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing I can say is we are just a support system. We all support each other left and right, whatever it is, we're there for each other. Coming in as freshmen, that is like the biggest piece that you need. People that you can turn to for help, whether it's homework, emotional support, whatever it is. And it's been awesome. The same class that came in as freshmen, we're still all here as seniors and still supporting each other. They're my best friends, and I'm so proud and happy that I can say that. And I'm so excited to go into my senior year with them.
We're going to ask you about some volunteer work here, about the work that you do with women's basketball. Describe the importance for the team to get out and volunteer, and why you like some of those activities.
Absolutely. We love the Portland community. Every year we do multiple volunteer work. Just last week we volunteered at the Oregon Humane Society, got to see lots of dogs, which is great. And then over the years, we volunteered at the Portland Marathon, just getting involved in the community in any way that we can. It means a lot to the team that we represent Lewis and Clark in a good way, but also show that we're giving back to those people who support us.
You're watching lcpioneers.com live, presented by PioStream. We're talking to Jessica Cerne, who's a senior for Lewis and Clark women's basketball and track and field. Let's shift to that track and field portion, right? This is heptathlon, javelin. I just got to ask, how tough is the heptathlon? Because it looks exhausting.
It is exhausting. You got 2 days to perform at your absolute best and give it 100%. I will say there's a lot of stress that comes with it. But once I'm done and finish that last 800 race, I feel so good. So yeah, I love the heptathlon. It's great. I can do virtually all the events. There's distance, sprints, hurdles, throwing, jumping, all of it. And it's great.
You mentioned the heptathlon and some of the difficulties that go with it. What was your favorite event when you first started, and what was your least favorite event when you first started?
Okay, so my favorite has always been javelin. I've loved javelin forever and have practiced it since I was a freshman in high school, so I have a lot of experience there. And then I'd say my least favorite is definitely hurdles. I'm not that flexible, so hurdles have always been a struggle for me. We have a great hurdle coach though, Coach John. And he's helped me tremendously over these last couple of years, and I've improved. And now I can say that I actually kind of like hurdles.
And I think that's a good point too. You mentioned a specific coach for an event.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, head coach of the track and field program is Aaron Campbell. I'd love you to speak to just what Coach Campbell brings to the track and field program, but also describe and highlight some of your coaches who do take the time to help you with the specialties that go into track and field?
Yes. Okay. So Campbell, Coach Campbell, he's there for me for everything, a typical head coach, but also because I do the heptathlon and I'm the only one that does the heptathlon, he goes to me to my hep meets and he's always there for me, cheering me on, supporting me. He's also my sprinting coach, so he helps me in my sprint events. And it's great to have his voice of reasoning to calm me down when I'm nervous and get stressed out. It's a great support system to have. He believes in me, which makes me believe in myself. And then some of our other coaches, we have Coach Jen is my javelin coach, and she's great too. She comes out a couple times a week volunteering and has helped me really hone in on the love I have for javelin and helped me improve over these last couple years. And then again, Coach John with hurdles, which is just amazing that we have so many volunteers to come out and help out at Lewis and Clark.
I guess the last logistical question I have is obviously women's basketball is going on when fall track and field practice begins.
Yes.
Do you train for both simultaneously?
I do not. I prioritize basketball. So right now and into February, I'll be focused on only basketball. And then as soon as basketball season ends, I jump straight into track and field. So if we end on a Friday, I'm heading out to track practice on Monday.
Jessica Cerne is our guest on lcpioneers.com live. You can join us Tuesday and Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Sometimes we'll have multiple guests per show, but we've had the pleasure of talking to Eric Norman on Tuesday, now Jessica on today's show. Want to get into economics, your major field of study. What's your academic experience been like so far at Lewis and Clark?
Yeah, I came into Lewis and Clark having no idea what I was going to do, the typical college freshman. So I took all the classes possible and ended up finding myself loving economics and continued on that path for a while, but wasn't sure what I wanted to do after. The big question, when you graduate, what are you going to do? So this past summer, I actually had an awesome opportunity to work at Aspasia Wealth Management, a financial advising firm here in Tigard, and got the opportunity to work with them as an intern, just an associate. Built a great foundation and relationship there with my coworkers and bosses, and recently got offered a full-time position after I graduate to continue working with them in hopes that I become a financial advisor myself someday. So there's lots of tests I have to take when I graduate to get that certification, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm so excited. It feels good to know what I'm doing, but also just really grateful for the opportunities that Lewis and Clark has given me, the opportunities Portland has given me, and I'm really excited to continue staying here for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting when eventually alumni, right,
Yeah.
will stay in the Portland area. I'm curious, as you look at your experience at Lewis and Clark in the city of Portland, has there been some highlights with whether it's a professor or a class, a story behind maybe one of those moments where it's like, wow, this is just such a neat experience that I don't feel like I could have gotten anywhere else?
Yeah, I think a great example is this semester. This is our first time back in person in a year and a half, but my class sizes are incredibly small. I have 8 kids in 3 of the 4 classes I'm taking right now. And that's really special. It means a lot. It means you can have a real close relationship with your professor. It's easy to reach out for help. We form study groups. Our study groups are the entire class, and we meet a couple times of the week to work together. So yeah, I really value that at Lewis and Clark, small class sizes. It's really important to me. It helps me learn. It helps my peers learn. And it's great. It's been a wonderful experience at Lewis and Clark.
I'm so excited for the basketball season, and I'm just the broadcaster. How excited are you to finally get to play basketball after not having a season a year ago?
Oh, wow. It's so surreal, Ryan. You have no idea. I'm so excited. I've wanted this for so long, and I'm so glad we have it back. I think I can speak for my fellow teammates. They're just as pumped up as me and excited to get out there and show people what we've been cooking for the last couple of years. They haven't seen us yet, and so they better be ready.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Kind of that payoff, right, with this big freshman class that's now seniors. I'm excited to see what happens with the first year, having Coach Doris at the helm. Jessica, absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing some stories and talking to us today on lcpioneers.com live.
Thank you, Ryan.
Absolutely. That's Jessica Cerne on the show. I did this to Eric on Tuesday. I didn't tell you. You're welcome to disconnect now at any time because that's something that you have to manually do. You're also welcome to stay as we wrap things up on the show. But I was thinking about this. The Lewis and Clark home football opener was a couple of weeks ago at Griswold Stadium. And as I put on the headset for the first time since March of 2020, because I was at the Oregon High School State Championships, the OSAA basketball state championships that I do in every March, and I was there doing OSAA network radio, and that was the week that all the events at Lewis and Clark and throughout the Northwest Conference got suspended and then eventually canceled because of the start of the coronavirus pandemic. And as I put on that headset a couple weeks back for the football game against Whittier, I realized like I haven't called a game since March of 2020, and it really put it in perspective. And it was slightly emotional, but there's something also for me, like I absolutely love broadcasting football. It's my favorite sport to call, but basketball has always been the sport that I have kind of intuitively picked up. And there's something about the intimacy too of basketball because you're right on the floor and everything is happening so close to you too. And so I'm getting pretty excited for basketball season when we have both the women's and men's basketball teams back on Palatine Hill and have a chance to watch them compete for the first time since February 2020, because that's when the season ends. So big thanks to Jessica for joining us on the show, and big thanks to you for watching because it's just been a lot of fun to get back in the swing of having live lcpioneers.com shows, and then also having a chance to kind of get in season perspective, in competition perspective, because a lot of our guests since we started the show back in March 2020 have come to us from during the pandemic or remote classes or non-competitive perspective. And now it's kind of fun to hear how things are going as we ramp up practice and get ready for the year. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Of course, you can watch all of our shows on demand. We do archive them at youtube.com/lcpios. And then, of course, if you have suggestions for future guests, we would love to know what they are. You can reach us at sports@lclark.edu. Or anytime during the show, you can ask questions or comments of any of our guests. And then be sure to check out our schedule at lcpioneers.com because this week we have more games, including 4 home games with Lewis and Clark volleyball Friday and Saturday night, and Lewis and Clark women's soccer on Saturday and Sunday at noon. That's at lcpioneers.com/this week. For everyone who made it possible, for Jessica joining us today, I'm Ryan Goff. Thank you so much for having fun with us. We will see you again next week for more of lcpioneers.com Live, presented by PioStream. Goodbye, everybody.
My favorite spot on campus is like right outside the Dovecote, little benches, and there's flowers growing there, and you can get a little coffee at the Dovecote and sit there.
My favorite spot on campus is definitely the weight room. I get that everybody loves like the gardens or the manor house, but our facilities for athletics here are actually amazing too, and the weight room is definitely my favorite spot.
My favorite spot on campus would either be the glade outside of the athletic facilities or South Campus.
What is my favorite spot on campus? I really like the back porch of the manor house. It looks out on Mount Hood, and on a clear day, it's super beautiful just to sit around with friends.
I'm Ann Bentley. I'm an associate professor of chemistry, and in this research group, I supervise the 2 students working in the Rogers program this summer in our lab. The brown bag experience is a good chance for students to get experience presenting their work that they've done in the lab, especially to an audience that's not technical.
What's intriguing about the brown bag experience is it incorporates all of the Rogers program. So I'm able to hear people in the psychology department and what research they're doing, but it also gives us the opportunity to share our research with the greater science community at Lewis and Clark. And for incoming students, the summer program is really beneficial for getting opportunity in research. So I've had the opportunity for research in the past, but other students may not have the same opportunities. So it's nice to work in a professional lab setting and potentially have the opportunity to publish a paper, which looks really good moving on into doing professional research out in the field.
The students grow a lot during the summer in their ability to learn the techniques and apply the techniques and suggest their own ideas for what could come next and interpret their data. It's just a big, usually if they haven't done research before, they learn a lot in that short period of time.